Hello, in this lesson, we are going to be looking at making links across text. So, our session objectives for today are that we are going to understand how to identify and analyze meaningful connections within a single text, learn strategies for exploring character development, foreshadowing, irony, repetition, and cyclical structure. And we are going to explore how to structure an analytical response that links these elements to the writer's overall message and themes. So, welcome to today's session on making links within a text. This session will focus on the importance of tracking character development, identifying patterns, and understanding structural devices within a single text. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to recognize key shifts and patterns in a text and connect them to the writer's themes and their message. So, first of all, you might be thinking, well, why make links? So, making links within a text demonstrates a deeper understanding of how a writer builds meaning and develops characters and reinforces themes. Focusing on patterns and shifts within a text reveals how the writer guides the reader's interpretation and creates a cohesive, impactful story. So, key focus: how does the writer use character arcs? That's how a character changes, foreshadowing, irony, repetition, and structure to communicate their themes. These need to be things that you are thinking about when analyzing text. And as a grade 8 or grade 9 tip, always look for shifts or changes in character behavior, tone, or structure. Think about how these changes contribute to the text's overall themes and messages. So, character arcs and development, first of all. So, a character arc is the journey a character takes from the beginning to the end of a story. This can include transformations in beliefs, attitudes, and relationships. So, there's lots of things that can be said about Macbeth's character arc, for example, or Sheila's character arc in An Inspector Calls. So, pay attention to how characters grow, regress. So, that means they might go backwards. Or reveal new aspects of themselves. So, as an example, in An Inspector Calls, Sheila's attitude shifts from initially adoring Gerald and wanting to not let the ring out of her sight, even for an instant. Remember, she says that at the beginning, to later challenging him and ultimately returning the ring, symbolizing her moral awakening and rejection of superficial values. She really valued the ring at first and things that made her look nice, and by the end, she has had a complete transformation. And as a grade 8 or grade 9 tip, look for key moments of change in a character's arc and consider what these changes reveal about the text's themes or the writer's message. So, foreshadowing and proleptic irony. Now, foreshadowing provides hints about future events, building tension and creating anticipation. And proleptic irony, which you may not have heard before, occurs when characters unknowingly hint at future events and they say things or do things that they would not have done had they known what was going to happen. And this often creates a deeper meaning for the audience and a deeper sense of irony. So, it's different to dramatic irony. So, as an example, in An Inspector Calls, Mr. Burling's confident predictions that there isn't a chance of war and the Titanic being unsinkable, absolutely unsinkable, are examples of proleptic irony. They're also dramatic irony because we know them to be false. We know these claims to be false. And his words foreshadow the failures of his beliefs and highlight Priestley's criticism of ignorance and arrogance. However, an example of proleptic irony that isn't also dramatic irony would be when Mrs. Burling talks about the man who has wronged Eva Smith and how he should be punished to the full extent of the law. And then, of course, it is revealed that she is talking about her own son. Or Gerald saying, "You seem like a nice, well-behaved family." And, of course, the family are indeed the opposite. So that would be an example of proleptic irony alongside the example I gave about Mrs. Burling. But this example with Mr. Burling is both proleptic irony and dramatic irony. And then, as a grade 8 or grade 9 tip, when analysing foreshadowing or proleptic irony, consider how these moments create tension, build anticipation, or reinforce the writer's critique of the character's views. And of course, with these, we are making links across the text because when we come to understand the element of proleptic irony, we can link it back to what the character originally said or did. Then we can look at repetition and motif. So repetition emphasizes important ideas or themes by repeating words, phrases, or images. And a motif is a recurring symbol or idea that reinforces the themes of a text. So it's a symbol, which is a singular occurrence, and then a motif is when that symbol is repeated throughout, like the symbol of blood. What is the motif of blood in Macbeth? So, as an example, in An Inspector Calls, Priestley repeatedly brings up the concept of responsibility through the inspector's dialogue, reinforcing the theme of collective responsibility and urging the characters and the audience, of course, to consider their social obligations. And as a grade 8 or grade 9 tip, when you spot repetition or motifs, think about how these elements contribute to the text themes. Repeated words or phrases often carry symbolic meaning that deepen with each mention. And then a cyclical structure. So a cyclical structure is when a text begins and ends in a similar way, creating a sense of closure or reinforcing a key theme. And this structure can emphasize the unchanging nature of a situation or highlight a character's inability to change. So as an example, again, from an inspector calls, the play ends with a second call from an inspector, mirroring the beginning. This cyclical structure underscores the Burlings' failure to learn from their mistakes and emphasizes Priestley's message about the importance of social responsibility. And as a grade 8 or grade 9 tip, cyclical structures can suggest inevitability or fate. When you see this structure, consider what it implies about the character's journey or the text message. So an example structure. So as an introduction, you can discuss Priestley's exploration of social responsibility in an inspector calls. Body paragraph 1, you can think about Sheila's character arc, showing her shift from materialism to moral awareness. Body paragraph 2, you could think about Mr. Burling's proleptic irony and ignorance as foreshadowing. Body paragraph 3, the cyclical structure, reinforcing the need for change and accountability. And think about how all of these links across the text link back to that overarching idea about Priestley's exploration of social responsibility in inspector calls. And then for your conclusion, summarize how these elements collectively convey Priestley's social critique. And as a grade 8 or 9 tip, use linking phrases such as this shift highlights or the repetition reinforces to make connections clear and coherent. You can even say this links to earlier on in the play or this foreshadows to make it clear to the examiner, to your teacher, that you're making links across the text. And as an example paragraph, in an inspector calls, Priestley uses Sheila's changing attitude toward Gerald to reveal her moral awakening. At first, Sheila is captivated by her engagement ring, exclaiming that she would never let it out of her sight. However, after learning of Gerald's affair, she returns the ring to him, symbolizing her rejection of superficial values and a commitment to personal growth. This change in Sheila's character arc reflects Priestley's belief in the potential for self-improvement, contrasting sharply with the unchanging attitudes of her parents. And you could also link to the younger generation and older generation to develop the context further there. And as a grade 8 or grade 9 tip, when discussing character arcs, focus on key moments of change, as I mentioned earlier, and how these shifts contribute to the text message. Explain what the change reveals about the character's journey and the writer's themes. And then some common pitfalls that students encounter when trying to make links across text. So ignoring shifts within characters. They are there for a reason. Character development is a key thing that writers use, and it's up to you to unpick why they have done certain things. So look for key turning points in character development. So look at Macbeth's key turning points in the play and where he changes, as these often reflect the writer's themes. So you can think about Shakespeare's purpose when he has Macbeth change, and we can argue about him being a tragic hero and why Shakespeare has chosen Macbeth to be a tragic hero and why he's characterized him in that manner with regard to his character arc. Describing without analyzing, of course, that's an obvious one, but don't just describe the moments of change, explain their significance and how they relate to the text themes. And don't overlook structural devices. So techniques like foreshadowing, repetition, and cyclical structure are crucial in revealing the writer's intentions. And we always need to be linking back to the writer's intentions, as I've mentioned many times throughout this course. And as a grade 8 or grade 9 tip, always ask yourself, what does this shift or pattern reveal about the theme? Focus on linking specific changes to the text's broader message. And then some final thoughts. So identifying and analyzing shifts, patterns, and structural devices within a text helps you understand the writer's techniques and themes more deeply. Pay attention to character arcs, foreshadowing, and structure. These elements often reveal key themes and reflect the writer's intentions. And try it yourself. Choose a character and write a paragraph analyzing their character arc or a shift in their attitude. So that brings us to the end of this lesson in making links across text. If you have found it useful, be sure to check out the other free sessions in this series, as well as the website where we have hundreds of resources and lessons to support you in aiming for those top grades. And don't forget to follow us on social media as well.